the GM of DC Pickleball team, which is really exciting. I'm thrilled to be part of MLP and what they're doing. I also teach my own camps and clinics across the country, and I just love it.
For real, for real, for real, for real.
All right, welcome to the Briones Pickleball Podcast. My name is Jordan Briones, and in today's episode, we have a special guest, DJ Howard. He is a world-renowned professional pickleball coach, and he is a general manager of an MLP team, which we'll get to later on in the show. And one thing that brings us together is we're both coaches. We both coach pickleball for a living, and we'll talk about that as well. And DJ, how are you, man?
Great. How are you doing, Jordan?
For those of you that don't know, I just started recording without really recording, so this is our second take, but we'll make up for it.
We're good.
So DJ's from Michigan, and and we were just actually talking about the first time we met, and that was nationals, probably 5 or so years ago, I think we said, and I just remember during that time, the game was taken off, but now from then 5 years ago, which we thought was pretty crazy, up until now, the game has obviously exploded. So at nationals, I remember, I think it was the first time that nationals was in Indian Wells, I believe, and we went out to lunch.
Right.
I do remember talking about some coaching things, and I think that was kind of just when we were both like figuring stuff out.
I remember you looking for content ideas on how to move forward with your videos, and I was kind of brainstorming how I might get more into the coaching path as far as camps and clinics, and look at where we are.
All right, well, let's get right into it. So DJ, just really quick, tell just a little bit about yourself for the viewers and listeners, kind of like a short summary, and also how you got involved in pickleball.
Sure. I'll try to keep it brief. I do wear a lot of hats. Husband and father first, but then, in terms of my career within pickleball, I'm the GM of DC Pickleball team, which is really exciting. I'm thrilled to be part of MLP and what they're doing. I also teach my own camps and clinics across the country, and I just love it. I love teaching people, and that's something I'm going to continue for the foreseeable future. But I also am a lead instructor with Nike for their pickleball camps. But then also I'm looking to explore how I can get more content online and explore those avenues. I'm thrilled to be a player with Selkirk and play as many tournaments as I can outside of my working schedule. I'm just all in on pickleball and thrilled to have found it. I found pickleball back in 2015.
Okay. I think I started 2014. I might have a year or so on you.
All right. Interesting.
Yeah.
It just so happened there were some gentlemen at our club. I taught tennis.
Yeah.
I was a full-time tennis teaching pro, and they had visited the villages, and they discovered this game that no one else had really heard about.
Yeah.
And they came back to our club and said, "Man, we found this game, pickleball. You ought to try it." And at first I was like, well, I'm kind of busy. I'm teaching tennis. I don't really have time to play a new sport. But
just real quick, what was your initial thought of hey, there's this game? You're coming from tennis, and I know how that is because I asked a lot of tennis players to play and stuff. How was that?
I remember exactly what I said.
Okay.
And it wasn't the typical tennis person response.
Oh, all right.
I said, I'm sure I'll like it.
Really?
I said, I like all racket sports. I'm sure I'll like it. And so soon thereafter, the gentleman who had played pickleball down in the villages convinced the management to convert one tennis court into 4 pickleball courts. And once they did that, they invited me to play. I had an hour off of a tennis lesson one of my private lessons canceled. And so I was like, yeah, I'll take this opportunity to go over and try it. And sure enough, I liked it.
Wow.
And it took me a while to understand the scoring.
Yeah, well, like everyone, right?
That was a little awkward. Like,
And real quick, this was at your club that you were
yeah,
teaching at.
Michigan Athletic Club in East Lansing, Michigan.
Okay.
And from those initial 4 courts, we now have 14 courts.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, 8 permanent courts and then 6 temporary courts. Looking to maybe add 2 more.
Wow.
And looking at future options for how we can convert that space into multiple permanent courts, which are under a semi-permanent structure.
Okay.
So
That's awesome.
plans are in the works for my Michigan people. I can't say too much.
Yeah.
Don't get too excited yet. But there are plans to make it bigger and better, which I think would be pretty cool. But I remember the first time I played, and it was about 6 months later before I was able to play again.
Oh, so you played once,
Yep.
and then you didn't play for 6 months.
No.
So why was that? Just busyness?
Just my schedule.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not that I didn't want to play,
Yeah.
but I didn't get addicted after one time playing.
Okay, so I was going to ask you about that because my story, I think, is like a lot of others.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I played once, and then I came back the very next week, right, or weekend. So was your urge there, or so you say you weren't addicted? Right.
No, I didn't get addicted immediately. I enjoyed it, but I played just the one time, and I went back to work and was teaching my lessons. Yeah. And several months later, I played again, and similar to the first time, I had to relearn the rules.
Yeah.
But then it was again. There was a time lapse where I wasn't able to play again for a few more months, and I played again. I remember we brought a youth group into the club, and I kind of taught them how to play from what I remembered of the rules.
All right.
I was still a little sketchy on it, but I think, okay, now you're the second server, and you only score when you're serving, and kind of teaching them, and they all really had a blast with it. And I think it was maybe a couple more times playing.
Okay.
That I was like, man, I really like this. And
Yeah.
I'm actually not bad at it.
Yeah.
I remember the ball bouncing really low
Yep.
compared to tennis where that ball would kick and bounce really high.
That's one of the big differences, yeah.
And that was something I really had to get used to. But once I got the hang of it, and I had one gentleman recommend, you ought to hit more drop shots. I'm like, wow, okay. I know how to hit drop shots in tennis. I thought that was fun.
Yeah.
And just goofing around in the tennis court, I learned to hit some lobs and drop shots and manipulate the ball. And, I started hitting some drop shots. I'm like, okay, this kind of makes sense now.
Yeah.
It was a foreign concept to me to hit a drop shot and move forward.
Yeah.
Because in tennis, you would hit a drop shot and backpedal like, oh no.
Yeah. And we're talking about like a third shot drop.
Right.
Yeah.
That and maybe just even from the midcourt. And then dinking.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Just that arcing ball that drops at their feet. But once I got the hang of that, hitting a drop shot and then moving forward, it was like a revelation. And then I became addicted. I would be teaching tennis lessons, listening to the pickleball, glancing over at the pickleball courts and thinking, man, I want to be over there.
Wow.
And
okay.
It was pretty soon thereafter. I won my first tournament that I played with Corinne Carr.
Okay. So those of you who know or don't know, Corinne is a legend of the game.
Yeah, she was in it for 2 full years before I even touched a paddle.
Wow. Okay.
And so interestingly enough,
You said you won with her. You played with her.
I played with her
Mixed.
and we won. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, not surprisingly,
Yeah. Was
knowing
it
Corinne.
those in that tournament though? Was there anyone that anyone would know today? Like
I
top
don't
pros?
think so.
Okay.
I mean, there were some really good, strong Michigan players
Okay.
who today are 4.5
Yeah.
and probably some 4.0s in there. And I thought it was kind of a big deal that we won the tournament. But knowing how good Corinne was,
Yeah.
she kind of carried us. But that was a good learning experience. And at that moment, I was hooked. Like, yeah, I'm actually decent at this. And I really want to practice and get better.
Yeah.
and I found myself daydreaming every day on the tennis court about pickleball.
Cool, man.
And I just, there was a point when I'm like, man, I can't wait to practice again.
Yeah.
But I couldn't because I was working, and it was driving me crazy.
That sounds terrible, man.
It
sounds terrible to hear a pickleball day wanting to play, but you have to do something else.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really poured myself into my career in tennis. I taught a lot of 10 and under junior players. I actually taught a couple of players who are now playing pro and Division I tennis. We had a good core group of players who I developed, and I really enjoyed that, but it was really difficult at one point to focus on the tennis anymore because I was always thinking about pickleball.
Yeah, no, that's usually how it goes. Let me ask you this. Here's kind of part how I got involved. My dad was invited to play by someone he met randomly, and then he played once. Then he told me about it, and I'll probably go into a deeper story in another episode. But basically, I played. I really loved it, and that during that time, so I have a pretty now extensive, doesn't mean super high level tennis background, but I played a lot of tennis, probably 4 or 5 level, and it was just enough for me, and I had the skills in tennis for it to transfer over pretty well. And as you know this, as a tennis player, every 0.5 level you go up, and actually it's very similar to pickleball, actually probably the same. It's harder to find games.
Oh yeah.
Right? It's harder to put together games because as you get into higher levels, there's less and less of them percentage wise. So when I found pickleball, it was just at the perfect time for me. It was just super hard to find rec games and practice games in tennis. So it was kind of not like kind of dragged out. Like it was really like sometimes I could find it, sometimes not. And then you would show up and it's only like 3 5s or 3 0s. Yeah. So that's kind of like, so when I found it, I was like, this is it. This is what I'm going to do. What was your, I guess, like passion level, right, of tennis when you found it, was it still like, this is the sport I love, or when did that shift?
It's hard to give you a time frame, but I remember distinctly telling my wife that, my passion for tennis is dwindling and my passion for pickleball just keeps growing. And it's at that point in time, I knew I had to make a shift because all I could think about was pickleball. It was pickleball like on my mind in all my tennis lessons. I'm like, this is not fair to my students on the tennis court to be daydreaming about pickleball, wishing I was playing pickleball, wishing I was on the pickleball court, and trying to still give them a good quality tennis lesson.
Okay, so just one thing to backtrack. I do remember now at Nationals when we met for lunch.
Yep,
it's about 5 years ago. You were still teaching tennis, I think.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And then that's when I think you were asking me, hey, or you're telling me I really want to transition to this full time. Yeah. So I had
that conversation with a number of people. Okay. And how do I make it happen?
Yeah.
I know. So I was going to mention this earlier. At the club, I still teach part-time there, when I'm home.
I was going to ask you, so you're still there.
Pickleball.
Got it. Yeah.
No tennis lessons, but I do teach pickleball lessons at the Michigan Athletic Club. When I started, we had a group of players, Corinne Carr, and then Joey Farias moved into town. I helped hire him on to our tennis staff, knowing that he had some pickleball background. And I had just kind of started playing pickleball, consistently a few months prior to that. Okay. And I knew Joey had played pickleball, wanted to bring him in because I believed he'd be an asset to our club.
Great player, by the way.
Oh, man. Phenomenal player.
Yeah, and good guy. I've known him a while.
Good friend of mine. Love that guy. Yeah. Simone Jardim.
So I was going to, because I know you're going to make your rounds to this, talking about this. But, that when you started, there was some high, you were fortunate, I would say. You had
extremely.
You had some high level. So was Corinne Carr, Joey Farias, Simone Jardim, and who else was there?
And then like a little bit later, Catherine Parento.
Okay, yeah.
And a short time thereafter,
So all those players were living in Michigan at that time.
yeah, right near East Lansing.
What?
Yeah, on right at the same club.
So interesting because now they're all spread out, right? I know this is a long time later.
I scared them away.
But like, why were they? What were they doing? Do you know?
Well, yeah, Simone Jardine was coaching Michigan State tennis team.
Oh, okay.
Catherine was on the team as a player.
Got it.
Corinne just happened to live in the area.
Okay.
And if you know her background, she was a strong tennis player. Yeah. I remember watching her play tennis at the club.
Okay.
And I should mention Dan O'Toole, who was one of the top senior players at the time. Yeah. You know, he made the finals at nationals in singles, played Scott Moore, who is a legend.
Yeah.
And, you know, Dan O'Toole was kind of the front runner of all of this. He played before any of the rest of us, and he helped teach Corinne Carr how to play.
Wow.
And he helped recruit Simone Jardine.
Wow.
Because he was looking for better competition. And so, you know, there's another gentleman named Eric Hansen who calls himself the godfather of pickleball. He was actually the original guy who went down to Florida, played in the villages, and brought the game back.
Okay.
And he taught it to his friend Dan O'Toole, who then kind of spread the word to most of the rest of us.
Yeah.
And, you know, we had a great core group of players.
Yeah. No, that's. Looking back now. Yeah. That's pretty cool that you got to play with all those people.
Yeah. And I would say maybe a year later, after Joey Farias had gone off, ventured on his own.
Yeah.
He left to Tucson Country Club, was teaching pickleball.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? It's time for me to go on my own. Yeah. And that's when we had the conversation that I have to find a way to make this happen because I love it so much and it's just what I want to do.
Yeah.
I feel like I've got enough experience and background in teaching and coaching that there's no reason I can't make a go of this. So
yeah,
I'm glad I did. I'm loving it.
No, that's cool, man. Yeah. So let's kind of take a little turn and talk about the MLP real quick.
Sure.
The MLP, Major League Pickleball, I think it just started like last year or the year before, right?
A couple years ago. Yep.
Okay. Obviously, back then, it was a new thing. Mm-hmm. Now there's like, you know, big money, big things. Just in general, what are your thoughts on it outside being involved? And we'll talk about, you know, you being general manager.
Yeah. I've recently really seen how exciting it can be.
Yeah.
You know, a couple years ago when it first started as an outsider, I didn't really get it. I just thought it was kind of another event.
Yeah.
And there's so many pickleball events, tournaments, and everything going on. You know, it's hard to really sort it all out.
Yeah.
But becoming involved with MLP and knowing what's going on and being there and seeing the atmosphere and the excitement, it's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah.
And I'm thrilled to be part of it. And it does bring back that flavor of like when I was playing college tennis and the team atmosphere. You know, most tournaments, it's just you or you and your teammate, but that's just two of you. But with MLP, you know, it's 4 members on your team. It's multiple teams and there's an ownership group.
Yeah.
And it, you know, it's really a full team of people working towards a common goal, and the excitement around it with the format. I mean, I'm really excited about it. No. And I think more and more people are going to view, they're going to watch, and yeah, it's a different format, different flavor. It's fresh, it's exciting. And like I said, I'm thrilled to be part of it.
No, that's awesome, man. Right now in this current time of filming, you're here in my studio. We're in Arizona, and MLP is going on right now. This is I believe it's the first event of the year.
Yeah.
Right. So what team are you general manager of again?
DC Pickleball Team.
DC Pickleball, and I'm assuming Washington.
Washington DC. That's right.
And who's on the team?
So we have Monica Palicelli,
Okay.
who doesn't live far from DC.
Okay.
She's about 45 minutes away in Maryland.
Is she tennis player?
No, she was a college
Really?
soccer player.
Oh man.
Lefty, steady, consistent, and just rock solid.
So no racket background at all.
Correct. Yeah,
Wow.
she's
so that's-
really
she's one of the few then.
she's come a long way. One of the very few
Okay.
without a strong tennis background
Yeah.
to succeed at a very high level.
Okay.
We also have Shelby Bates from Florida. Huge upside. Played college tennis at Coastal Carolina.
Okay.
And really did well for our team on Thursday.
Yeah.
We have Stefano Vern from Austin, Texas. Big, strong lefty. He's got a great group of practice players around him. So expect he's going to continue to improve.
So where is he living then?
Austin, Texas.
Okay. So he's hitting with Dekel, right? All those,
Yeah.
like all those.
I mean,
Ben.
you know,
I
the
don't know if
players
he's
I mentioned in East Lansing
Yeah.
pales in comparison to what they have now in Austin, Texas.
Well, there's like a pro kind of training group out there kind of now, right?
Yeah, of a dozen or more players.
Yeah.
Wyatt Stone is out there.
Yeah.
Brennan Ensick-Pong, Zane Navratil.
Wow. I did not know Zane moved there. Did he move there?
I'm pretty sure he's there
Okay.
quite often. If he doesn't live there,
Oh, okay.
I know his name was brought up as someone who plays there.
Wow. Okay.
I can't even think who all else, but there is a strong group of players out there. And Stefan gets to train with them.
Yeah. And
consistently.
I'm assuming he played college tennis too? Stefan, or no?
I don't believe he did. No, he did not. He was a good junior player,
Okay.
but he did not play in college.
But he had enough. He had enough in the tank.
Yeah, he had a strong tennis background.
Okay.
Definitely. And we also have Sam Querrey,
Yeah.
who obviously has the strongest tennis background of anyone playing pickleball.
Yeah.
And he
Obviously.
presented,
Yeah.
he got up to number 11 in the world.
Yeah.
That's huge
That's singles, by the way, right?
in singles.
Yeah.
Yep. He has a win over Novak Djokovic. I just read a statistic.
Does he?
Yeah. I read a
And-
statistic the other day because the Australian Open is going on right now. Djokovic is
And
in the
he's
final.
he's about to win it.
That's
my prediction.
I would bet on it. But the statistics showed that Novak Djokovic has won 23 of his last 24 matches in majors
Yeah.
against American males.
Yeah.
The one loss,
Wow.
Sam Querrey.
That's a stat right there.
That's elite company.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
now Sam tells a similar story as what I experienced. He said, I don't even want to do tennis anymore. All I think about is pickleball. It's all I want to do.
Well, I was actually going to ask you about Sam. You've probably got to know him a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So, out of everyone that's played so far, I would say besides Jack Sock, because I don't really count him because he's not fully in yet. I know he's headed that way. But what do you think his ceiling is? So singles and doubles, because I did, the first time I really watched him was at the Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot what it's called, Bubbly or whatever.
Yeah.
They played the Johns, and I'm really impressed by Jack. I think he's a beast. But what do you think ceiling wise? We've heard all the things Sam's thrown out there, top 10 in 3 months, those kinds of things. What do you think just by his game and what do you think?
He's got tremendous upside. He's got some habits that need to be relearned.
Yeah.
But you're talking about a phenomenally talented professional athlete. And let me just preface this by saying, we know we've gotten a lot of flack for drafting Sam onto our MLP team as the first pick of the challenger level draft.
Yeah, there was. Well, his little shorts probably don't help. His little.
Well, that was the next thing I was going to say. We've caught a lot of flack and criticism for it, but you also have to understand Sam is a very funny guy.
Okay.
And he's rolling with things.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with trying to get a little attention.
Yeah. This is something I got. Just a question for as a viewer and for the viewers.
Yeah.
From knowing Sam Querrey,
Mm-hmm.
just for a short amount of time, those little videos that he posts that a lot of people get angry at, Is he kind of, what percent joking is he, having fun with it, and what percent serious, you think?
Oh man, percentage? That's
Yeah.
a little tough to pin down.
Oh, okay.
But just understand Sam has a great sense of humor.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes people take things a little too seriously.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And it is kind of comical
Yeah.
when you understand the context of what's taking place.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes people get bent out of shape a little too easily. I'll just say it that way.
And overall, great for the game.
That is the point.
Yeah.
Does this not draw attraction to the game of pickleball?
Yeah.
It's a story. And I think stories are good for pickleball. If we can attract more media attention to the game, it's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's not like he's done something wrong. Sam didn't do anything. We drafted him knowing that this is going to be good for the game of pickleball. And Sam has tremendous upside as a player.
Yeah. So top 10, top 5, what ceiling you think?
Oh man,
We'll go singles first and doubles. And then I'll kind of tell you what I think after you answer.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, everybody's got an opinion.
Yeah.
I think top 5 within what time frame?
Any
Any time frame.
So if he sticks with it, I'm not even giving, no time frame, just ceiling. Or where do you think he'll get to?
Yeah.
Just to ask, is he really seriously going to be competing singles, or is that something because I know doubles he will be or singles are kind of something he just threw in there.
Yeah. I haven't spoken to him directly about what's your real passion, doubles or singles, and how hard are you going to grind within singles.
Yeah.
My hunch is he's not going to be out there grinding every day on the pickleball court, trying to elevate his singles game like he did in the tennis world.
Yeah.
And I think that's true of any professional athlete. When they hit a certain age, that grind becomes really difficult to maintain.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to understand that as a professional tennis player, you're out there in the heat, the humidity, you're out there when it's cold, and you are hitting 500 serves a day, whether you feel like it or not. It is a job.
And you're isolated for the most part.
Yeah, it's not like you're hanging out with your buddies. It is a full-time commitment, and you're foregoing hanging out with your friends. You're foregoing family functions.
Yeah.
And you are just pounding away day after day. And most days you don't feel like it.
Yeah.
It's not like the rest of us playing tennis where it's a hobby and it's fun. Pickleball is the same. For most of us, it's a hobby and it's fun. And we get out there and we practice and it's cool and we enjoy it. But imagine if you had to do it 4 hours a day, every day. You had to have a trainer. You're working out in the gym. I mean, that's the life of a professional athlete. And you do it whether you feel like it or not. Your body hurts, you're sore, you're tired. You do it anyway. And so, does Sam have that kind of passion and commitment to devote himself to be the number one singles player in the world? I mean, I don't blame him for not having that desire.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit difficult to answer. Talent-wise, the sky's the limit. I believe he could reach top 10. And that's no disrespect to any of
singles or doubles? Or are you talking about both?
I think singles in particular.
Really?
Because it's so similar to tennis.
Okay.
Given a little time with some good coaching and learning some of the nuanced strategies. And people can point to the tournament in California where, he lost to Alex Newman. But Alex Newman's a solid singles player.
Yeah, he's top 10.
I mean, he's legit good.
Yeah.
And
he said something, or I read something or whatever, heard something about he's only played a handful of times, like singles.
Right.
Is that true?
Yeah. I mean, there's no reason to doubt him on that. I don't think he's secretly been grinding.
Yeah. So, I mean, that showing, now I did post something on Facebook, it wasn't the best showing, but I mean, really, considering that, almost no one could do that. What he did, put up some points in good rallies and stuff, I'd say.
Right, and to be competitive.
Yeah.
So, given a little time and effort, he can be legit good. And again, that's no disrespect to anyone who's currently at the top of the game.
Yeah.
But when you have somebody who's that phenomenally talented, if they put some dedication into it and some time, then naturally they're going to excel.
Yeah.
Who are the top players currently? They all had strong tennis backgrounds.
Yeah.
Guys like James Ignatowicz, D1 tennis player. Alex Newman, D1 tennis player. Ben Johns was a high-level USTA junior tennis player.
Yeah.
People like to say, he was an average tennis player. No, he wasn't. He was very, very strong.
Yeah.
He also had a high level of table tennis.
I think those two.
The combination
if you wanted a perfect pickleball player,
Yeah.
extensive background in table tennis and tennis.
I agree. And Ben had
Yeah.
extensive background in each.
Yeah.
And that's why he's so good. I mean, there's other intangibles and work ethic that
Yeah.
go along with that too. Ben Johns is, he is a level above everyone else right now.
Yeah.
But Tyson McGuffin had a high level tennis background. So, to criticize Sam so harshly for expecting to be playing pickleball at a really high level, everyone else who is at the top had a high level tennis background too.
Yeah.
It's just not as high as Sam.
Yeah. It's like the higher you start, maybe not all the time, but the faster you can move through.
I think clearly,
Yeah.
the higher level you attain at tennis, the higher level you're going to start at within pickleball.
Yeah.
You don't see a 6.0 level tennis player start pickleball as a 3.0.
Yeah. It just doesn't happen.
No. I mean, in my experience, whatever level you were at tennis, you kind of start out a couple notches below within pickleball. If you were a 5.0 tennis player, start out at about a 4.0-ish level pickleball.
Mm-hmm. With like,
with rare exceptions.
With rare exceptions and maybe playing a few weeks or so.
Yeah. I mean, first day out, obviously everyone, is trying to figure out the different bounce of the ball and the feel off the paddle and the rules and where to hit the ball and so on. But, you think about it. Some of these tennis guys are legit 6.0, 6.5. In Sam's case, 7.0 level tennis.
Yep.
And I've also found that within, tennis players typically kind of catch up to that same level within pickleball within 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
So if you're a 4.0 level tennis player, you might start out at pickleball as a 3.0, but then within maybe a year of practice, you catch up to about a 4.0 level in pickleball.
Yeah.
And so you think about it, if that translates across the board, a 7.0 level tennis player with some consistent practice and obviously some coaching on the different nuances of the game, could they not reach a 7.0 level of pickleball? You would suspect probably they could.
That's a good thought. Wow. Yeah. Never thought of it that way. But yeah, so just getting back to the MLP.
Mm-hmm.
So we got those 4 players you just mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
DC, what is it called? Sorry.
DC Pickleball Team.
DC Pickleball Team. So how did you are the general manager of that team. Actually, when I called you, I think I saw it or I just found out and I was like, what? That's crazy. Okay. Cause I didn't even know that. Cause I called you cause we were going to meet up. But, anyway, so how did that even happen? Just a quick story. And then, what does that entail? Like your job? Like, what does that mean? Cause I know what general manager means in other sports, but what does it mean for pickleball?
Right. Well, first of all, I got involved because I know a guy who knows a guy.
That's usually how it starts, by the way.
I mean, that's the way the world works in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, there's a gentleman I give tennis lessons to. He lives in New York, and he visits Michigan 1 week every year. And I've been giving him tennis lessons for probably 10 years. Well, he knew my story about making the shift from tennis into pickleball.
Yeah.
And I had told him that if he visits Michigan, I'll still give him tennis lessons. He's been like my only tennis lesson since I switched over to pickleball.
So you get one tennis lesson a year.
I get maybe one other tennis lesson per year. Like if I get called on, hey, we got an emergency, can you do a tennis lesson? I'm like, yeah, I can. I suppose I'll do that. Yeah. But each year he'd visit his family.
Okay.
his wife's family lives in Michigan, and they would bring the kids, and he'd come visit, and he'd want tennis lessons. So sure, his name's Ron Feldman, great guy, love him. And he knew about my shift over into pickleball.
Yeah.
He got into a conversation with a gentleman in New York who said, man, we just bought a pickleball team. Do you know anybody? And we need a general manager. Do you know anybody in the pickleball space who might fill this role? And so Ron called me up and said, hey, I just met an owner of a pickleball team. They need a GM. Are you interested? I said, well, yeah, I am interested. And so he put us in touch, and then another email to put me in touch with another gentleman, Al Tylis, who is the owner of DC Pickleball Team.
So what company, what company is it? Or what does he own? I know he owns a team, but like how, what?
Well, he's got a business partnership group.
Oh, okay.
So Sam Porter is part of the group.
Okay.
And then within that ownership group, there's Justin Verlander and Kate Upton, Eva Longoria, Mesut Ozil. He's a soccer player with 100 million Instagram followers. Richard Hamilton, who played basketball for the Detroit Pistons. Sean Marion, who played basketball for the Phoenix Suns.
So they collectively own it together.
Yes, it's an ownership group. Now, Al Tylis is the owner, point person, along with his business partner, Sam Porter. And we had some good conversations. And, I'm just thrilled that they, thought highly enough of me to select me as the GM. And, we are developing the position as we go, because it's not like being a GM of an NBA basketball team.
Yeah.
The responsibilities are not that hefty yet.
Not yet, yeah.
But, we're heading towards a very similar type of thing.
Yeah.
Major League Pickleball, Major League Baseball,
Yeah.
National Football League. These are professional organizations for their sport. Pickleball is trending the same way. Obviously, there's not billions and billions of dollars involved, but it's growing. And the prize money and the money involved with Major League Pickleball this year.
What is it, at $5 million?
$5 million, which is significantly higher than previous years.
And is that spread out? Like $5 million purse for all the MLP events for all the players?
Yeah, so it's not like $5 million for one team.
So it's actually, it's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It is like 10, 20, 100x than years ago, but it's not really it's not like a crazy lot of money then.
Well,
for that many teams.
Yeah, you put it in perspective, though, with other tournaments where they might have $100,000 prize money.
Yeah.
Even there, it's not $100,000 for the winner. It's spread out over the tournament, but that's growing.
Yeah.
And you start to think about what is significant money.
Yeah.
Let's say they even take, out of that $5 million, they take $500,000 for the Premier League team that wins the season.
Huh.
Well, what's 500,000 divided by four players? That's $125,000.
Yeah.
That's nothing to sneeze at.
Is that just a number you made up, or is
That's
that
a number I made
Oh,
up.
okay.
So don't quote me on that.
Is that posted though? So why don't you kind of break down how the format is? Because I have no idea. So MLP, how many teams are there? And how does, a good question is also for the viewers out there. I have no idea. Mm-hmm. I saw kind of some of the draft stuff, but how did the drafting work? How does that work?
Sure. So 24 total teams.
Oh, so there's 24.
Right.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm possibly going to expand in the future.
Yeah.
So 12 teams are in the Premier League.
Okay.
And
so
there's 12 teams in a Challenger League.
Okay, see, I didn't even know this. So there's a Premier League and there's a Challenger.
Correct.
But it's all part of the MLP.
Correct.
Okay.
So the Premier League started with a draft. Anna Lee Waters was drafted first.
Yeah, and then Ben, right?
And then Ben Johns was drafted next.
Yep.
So they're in the Premier League. And anyone who got drafted into the Premier League gets a set amount of money.
Got it.
For playing each event.
Okay. And that was just based on
draft order.
draft order. So there was 12 teams in their premier. So let's talk about that first.
Yep.
Did they do not a raffle, but like who got to, how did
A lottery.
who got to pick first? Yeah, lottery.
It was a lottery.
Okay.
Lottery selection.
Okay, and then it just basically went down the line.
Yeah. So what occurs within Major League Pickleball is a snake draft, meaning
Yeah.
the team that drafts first in round number 1 goes last in round number 2.
Yeah, so it comes back.
Right.
Yep.
So the team that drafted 12th in round number 1 drafted first in round number 2.
Got it.
And same is true for rounds 3 and 4.
Yeah.
The team that drafted number 1 overall in the first round drafted number 1 or first pick in the third round.
Got it. So 12 teams, snake draft, four players.
Correct.
So that's interesting too, because like if someone gets hurt, or what's the process? Is there like what is it called? Like somebody to replace them?
Yeah. So
That happens.
yeah, and it's a little different for Premier or Challenger League.
Okay, so let's talk about the premier since we're talking about.
So if someone has to be absent,
Yeah.
for example, Riley Newman was out of the country
Yeah.
for this first Major League Pickleball event.
Mm-hmm.
Premier team could select any one of the Challenger level
Okay,
players
Got it.
who was available to fill in.
and they can't pull it outside of the challenger, right? It can't
Correct.
be some random
Correct.
top tennis player that comes in.
It has to be a player from the Challenger League who was available. So, for example, our team, DC Pickleball team, didn't make it through to the quarterfinal rounds because Riley Newman was absent. They selected Stefano Verne from our team to fill in. Follow?
Well, kind of. They selected someone on your team.
Correct, because he's in the Challenger League and he was available to play in Riley's stead.
Oh, he was in the challenger, but sorry, is your team in the challenger team or the
Correct.
premier team?
We are a Challenger League team.
Got it. See, I didn't know that.
Okay,
Okay.
now it makes more sense.
Okay. So the premier teams, 12 teams there, challenger, 12 teams there.
Right.
I understand the draft now, snake draft in the premier.
Right.
And all the top players are there in the Premier League. So how did people get in the Challenger Leagues?
So anybody who had applied to be drafted, if they did not get selected in the Premier League, they had a shot to be drafted in the Challenger League.
Okay.
And so we drafted Sam Querrey number 1 in the Challenger League, knowing he has tremendous upside, knowing
Got it.
this is going to attract attention to pickleball and the game itself. And
Now, what place were you in that draft, though?
number 1.
Oh, so got it.
We
And
were the number 1 overall pick for the Challenger League.
And that was lottery, just random, right?
Correct.
So then you guys picked Sam first.
Right.
Got it.
And so within the Challenger League, if someone is either unavailable or
Yeah.
injured,
What happens then?
there is now a sub list of players who had applied
Okay.
to be drafted who could be available for selection.
Got it. So like technically, anyone like I could have applied and been a sub.
Yes, had you applied,
Yeah.
you would be on the list as a potential candidate to be picked up as a
Okay.
reserve
Okay.
in case of injury.
Yeah. Case of injury.
So, or absence.
Yeah.
For example, there's, Rachel Summers is a participant on Bay Area Breakers, and she has a military obligation for the final event in June.
Okay.
She'll need a replacement.
Yeah.
So, of the draft list applicants, someone will fill in her place.
Okay. So MLP is going on in Mesa right now.
Right.
Got the Premier and the Challenger. So what's the format now? Because you have two separate, like you'll call it like major and minor league. Do they all play each other, or does both leagues play each other, or do they play within their leagues? Like how does that work?
Play separately.
Okay.
So, the format is this. Within the Premier League, 12 teams, there are 3 pools of 4 teams.
Got it.
Within the Challenger League, there's 3 pools
Got it.
of 4 teams each.
Okay.
For in our example, we were in a pool with Bay Area Breakers, Columbus Pickleball Club, and goodness, I'm drawing a blank on the other team we played.
That's right.
Utah Black Diamonds.
Okay.
We lost a close match to Utah Black Diamonds.
Yeah.
We defeated Columbus Pickleball Club, and we lost a really tight match to Bay Area Breakers. In fact, we lost 22-20 in the Dream Breaker, which I'll explain that part too if you're not familiar.
Yeah, we'll get to the scoring in a sec.
Turns out, so what that means is the top 6 teams advance to the next round. Essentially, the top 2 from each pool. 6 teams out of the 12.
Yeah.
If you finished in the top 2 slots, you'd make the semifinals automatically. Meanwhile, the other 4 teams that made it through the first round compete against each other to qualify for the semifinals.
Okay.
And once you have the semifinal set,
Yeah.
those 4 teams, they'll go head to head.
Yeah.
Number 1 against number 4, or number 2 against number 3, or whatever, make the finals.
Okay.
Turns out Bay Area Breakers and Utah Black Diamonds both made the finals. Came out of the same pool.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And they're the 2 teams that defeated us.
Got it.
So, that indicates to me that we
Yeah.
belong and that, we're right there.
No, that's cool, man.
So interesting how that worked out, but that's the format. And that is true of both Premier and Challenger leagues, but they are separate.
So just to be clear, so they never play.
Do not cross
ever
and play each other. No.
All right. So real quick summary of how the scoring works, because obviously, and there's a lot of there's some positives. There's a lot of negatives out there about the scoring. Could be a little confusing. If you were to explain it to someone listening, what's the format like?
So the format is a women's doubles match.
Okay.
Followed by a men's doubles match.
Okay.
Mixed doubles.
Okay.
And then another mixed doubles.
Okay. So women's, men's, mixed.
Correct.
Got it.
Now, the goal is to win 3 of the 5 matches.
Women's, men's, mixed.
That's 4.
That's 4.
If you tie 2-2,
Got it.
you go into what's called a dream breaker,
Okay.
which is now singles.
Just singles.
It's just singles. You select one player from your team to play 4 points of singles.
Okay. So it's like a lead, or we can call it I don't know what they call it in other sports, but you click. I mean, you pick the first player, and they play 4 points.
Yep.
Then what
so
happens after that?
whichever team selects first, the other team gets to select whichever player they want to match up against.
Okay, and knowingly, so they don't
Correct.
do this ahead of time.
Right. It's one at a time.
And does this happen live? You
Yes.
know, or is it like premeditated?
Well, each team could select ahead of time. If we get into the dream breaker,
Got it.
we would like you to go first. We would like you to go second.
Okay.
But we don't know what any other team is going to select.
Yeah.
And if the other team selects X player
Yeah.
to play first, we would then decide, okay, who do we want to match up against that player?
Okay, so 4 points, and after the 4, is it the
Your
second?
next player up plays 4 singles points.
So 4, 4, 4, 4 until it gets to 21, right?
Correct. So, and you would start your order over again. Once each of your 4 players
So
has played 4 points, you cycle back through again. And your order cannot change at that point.
got it.
Your order is set.
Oh, so
you couldn't
everyone
swap out your order.
So that number one always play 4 points together.
Correct.
And then the second, number 2 always plays number 2.
Correct.
So it's never switching.
Right. You can't change it after
Got
you've
it.
set your order.
So they come off, and then the number 2s come in.
Correct.
Got it. Okay. And the one big change, I think, what makes MLP exciting is the freeze, right?
Yeah. So
why
we
don't you
should
talk
explain
about
what
that?
freeze means.
Yeah.
Within MLP, it's rally scoring. So you're scoring a point whether you're the serving team or the receiving team.
Which makes it all the more easy to track along.
It is actually easier. It is easier for a fan to track the scoring. The only thing a fan would have to know, or the casual observer has to know, is the freeze.
Yeah.
Which means...
Just real quick, the doubles, is it rally scoring? No.
Yes.
Oh, doubles is even rally scoring.
Correct.
It's the same thing. Okay.
Yep.
Go ahead.
When a team reaches 20 points, they're frozen on 20 until they win a point on their serve.
Got it. So like, let's say it's 20-15.
Right.
They don't score on their serve. And real quick, in regular scoring, you get 2 serves. So how does that work? You only get 1 serve?
Yes. If you win the point, the ball goes to your teammate. So if you're serving and you win, you maintain possession of serve, but the ball goes to the other half of the court.
So you're constant. If you keep winning points, you're constantly switching service. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And then, so let's say one team has 20, the other one has 15, and the serving team at 20 does not score.
They lose the rally.
They use the rally. Then it goes to the
point for the returning team.
Point for the returning team. So it's 16-20 now.
Correct.
And again, if they lose the point, the team with 16, they don't lose the game.
They remain at 16.
They stay at 16. That's the freeze we're talking about.
Serving team remains at 20.
Got it. So it makes it it actually, from what I've seen too, it makes the matches a lot tighter. Is that...
There's potential to make matches closer.
Yeah.
Because of the freeze method.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you could be behind.
Yeah.
It's a good example, 20-15. But if you win a return point, now it's 20-16.
Yeah.
And you win one serving point, now it's 17-20.
Yeah.
You might lose one. And so now it's 20-17. But if you stop them, you win that rally as a returner. Now it's 18-20. And now at that point, there's also a freeze for that team.
Yeah. It could creep up quick.
So it does balance things out a little bit. It's not a complete advantage for the team who's behind, because they also, once they reach 18, have to freeze.
Oh, okay, wait. So team behind, once they reach 18?
Yes.
What do you mean they have to freeze? How does that work?
Their score is also frozen. They have to win points only on their serve.
Okay.
So at that point,
I did not know that part.
2018,
got it.
It's essentially regular scoring.
Got it. Okay.
Only a serving team can score at that point.
So that balances it out.
Right.
Okay. Wow. Interesting.
It's fun. It's exciting. And if you haven't been to an event, I would encourage anyone to watch an event.
Before tickets skyrocket, because right now it's like $10, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can expect ticket prices are going to increase just like any other professional sport.
Yeah.
You'll have multiple options.
Yeah.
As venues get bigger and the sport becomes more popular, it only makes sense.
Yeah. No, that's cool. That really, that's exciting. General manager, MLP. I actually didn't know all that stuff, so that's very informative. Now let's talk about coaching a little bit.
Sure.
Because that's what you do full time. We both do full time.
That's my passion, man.
I
love it.
I've made the switch just over a year ago. I actually, was a UPS driver before, coaching on the side. Now it's awesome. I get to help people out and do it full time. What is your, what's your routine or your schedule? What does it look like for you right now?
Yeah. So, I mean, routine, that's a little hard to pin down because I don't have like a set routine. I mean, when I'm home, I try to be present at home. I've got some people working for me now, organizing my website and updating that, doing some of my scheduling, because trying to do all that myself it's too much work, too much time and effort at an area I'm not really all that good at.
Yeah.
My expertise is on the court, teaching, coaching. And so I've had to delegate some other of those duties to other people. But when I am home, I like to practice, in the morning, get my practice done, get a workout in. And then the rest of the day, I am trying to organize, some of my schedule, but also, be present with my family.
Yeah, that's cool.
My kids are homeschooled, so they're home during the day, which is cool.
Hey, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Maybe I did, but we're actually homeschooling ours.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good gig.
Yeah.
And it works for us. I get to see my kids, and the schedule's a little more flexible.
Yeah.
Not that we don't have a schedule. It might be a little bit of a misnomer out there that it's just freewheeling, do whatever. But no, the kids do school.
Yeah.
And it just means we have a little bit more time
Oh, that's
with
awesome.
me to spend with them. But, I'm traveling, obviously, for the MLP.
Okay.
I'm here in Arizona
Yeah.
because we just had this MLP event. And, I'm still playing some tournaments, but sometimes my wife, Christine, will come with me.
Mm-hmm.
And, sometimes the kids travel
Yeah.
with us. So that's cool. But, I'd love to play more tournaments. It just, my tournaments don't pay the bills.
Of course. Yeah. I know how that is.
Yeah.
Unless
And-
you're in the top 10.
Yeah. And I'm not a top 10 guy. So,
Yeah.
I'm what you call like a pickleball journeyman.
Yeah.
And, I just love it. I do it because I love it.
Yeah.
I play 5-0 and pro events. If there's ever an event where they offer both, I play both. Because quite honestly, I'm probably not going to win a medal
Yeah.
at the pro level. And I'm consistently winning medals at 5-0.
Yeah.
So I kind of got the best of both worlds, I think.
Oh, that's awesome.
But other than that, I do travel to teach. I'm all over the country teaching lessons, clinics. I get requests quite often. Hey, can you come to my area? We got people we can organize. And, it's just a matter of trying to get that schedule organized
Yeah.
and trying to piece those dates in to my calendar where I can get out there and teach and do my thing.
Yeah. It's a lot of work. I know how that is.
It is. It is. It's a lot of back end work.
Yeah.
I enjoy more of the front lines type of work.
Yeah.
Where I just go teach. And that's why I partnered up with Nike Pickleball Camps because they're so good at marketing and just filling the camps. I show up, I teach, and, I don't have to do a whole lot of that other stuff.
Yeah.
With my own camps, clinics, it's a lot more work on the back end.
Is your wife involved at all? Because with us, my wife is the back end machine, and that allows me to kind of do what I do.
Yeah, good on her. Not yet.
Okay.
We've had discussions.
Does she work right now or?
My wife is teaching our kids.
Okay.
And so, she's kind of busy with that.
Yep.
But we've had discussions about how she can become involved in the pickleball space.
Mm-hmm.
Now she's traveled with me to more tournaments and observed the pickleball scene and how that works.
Yeah.
She's becoming more familiar and getting a better understanding of how all this goes. And so I think down the road, she will be heavily involved, just not at the moment.
And your wife, was it Christine?
Yep.
Pickleball player or non-pickleball player?
Somewhat of a player.
Okay.
She enjoys it. Doesn't get out there very often.
Yeah.
But she always loves it when there's another wife out there who is not an all-in pickleball player, because then they can talk about something other than pickleball. So It was kind of cool. I met Brittany Breeze, Drew Breeze's wife, and she's not like an avid pickleballer. And I was like, man, I wish my wife was here because you two would hit it off and have a good conversation. And Eric Lang's wife as well. She's like, I'm not a pickleball person. All I hear about is pickleball.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if someone else was here that didn't just want to talk about pickleball.
No, it's funny because obviously we coach a lot of people. With my clients, it's usually, or the players that I coach, it's usually they're both in it, like hard.
Yeah.
Or one is like in it, like crazy, right? And the other one's just like put the earplugs in.
Yeah. No, I get it. And I try not to talk about pickleball too much when I'm at home.
But it's super hard, I'm sure.
Yeah, you got to have somebody to talk to, commiserate with when you play poorly. My wife, she's so great because she's a saint for listening to me complain and whine about how I didn't play well enough and I need to practice more and get better. But, some of that's pretty tough because my schedule doesn't allow me to practice and train like I want to.
Yeah.
Which is honestly the age I'm at, why I have to make the shift over more into coaching and GM type duties because I'm chasing time, man. Like, I'm not getting younger. So I'll keep competing the best I can. But, man, in 3 years from now, senior pro.
Let's go.
That's right.
The what is it called? NPL or something? Not, the senior tour?
Yeah, NPL.
NPL.
Who's mimicking Major League Pickleball.
Are they?
Just for seniors.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's a senior league.
Yeah.
A senior professional league is what it is. And so, yeah, man, 3 years from now, I'm hitting that senior tour.
There you go.
And I'm trying to stay in shape for that.
Yeah. No, I'm sure you'll be one of the top guys there. So
I hope so. We'll see.
Yeah. So when it comes to coaching, you have a extensive coaching background. I kind of fell into it. I always liked helping people with stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Cause you have you went to school for that and stuff.
Yeah, I got a degree in exercise science.
Okay.
With a heavy emphasis on education.
Yeah. And there's a lot of, just like in your shoes, maybe 5-7 years ago, tennis coach to pickleball.
Right.
Right. Pickleball is exploding. What would you say to tennis coaches right now? Because obviously we are at a rate, and everyone knows this, of players.
Mm-hmm.
And then to coaches, at least good quality coaches, it's far and few between, or it's it's outpacing coaches.
Sure.
What would you say about to some tennis coaches out there that maybe are a little interested about trying it, and what would you say to them?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say, find a pickleball mentor, someone who's a trusted name within the sport, and see if you can learn from them. That's how I learned.
Did you have one, or who would that be for you?
Within pickleball?
Like when you started?
No. I learned a lot of things through experience of my own and through the experience of watching others.
Yeah.
But, I did have the 5 years of college of experience learning how to teach. Mm-hmm. And I had a really good tennis mentor, but I also grew up with a really good mentor. My dad has been coaching basketball all my life. Oh. He's still coaching basketball. And so I grew up under his tutelage, and just what, being a coach is all about, different coaching styles. And my dad went to all kinds of conferences and seminars to learn how to become a better teacher and basketball coach. But my dad had a pretty extensive knowledge of all sports.
Yeah.
And so I grew up in a sports home. Older brother, we competed in countless sports: baseball, basketball, obviously, tennis, golf. I ran track. Mm-hmm. I mean, just heavily involved in a number of different sports, and having that background and that growing up in that environment. My mom was also a substitute school teacher.
Okay.
So I kind of grew up in a home where there's a teacher and coaching. I feel like it's just in my blood. So when I went to college, my goal was to become a school teacher and a basketball coach.
Oh, okay.
Turns out I didn't really like doing lesson plans. And so I shifted away from the education portion, and I went into just exercise science. Oh. And, I was going to be a personal trainer, where I was still helping people and educating them on exercise and human health and so on. Mm-hmm. But I actually, once I graduated, I started as a personal trainer, but I was teaching some tennis lessons part-time.
Got it.
And within 6 months, the part-time tennis turned into full-time.
Okay. So you enjoyed it.
I did enjoy it, and I found I was good at it.
Yeah.
And people liked me, and they requested lessons. But I had a really good mentor who showed me a lot of different drills and exercises. And I learned a lot through my experience teaching tennis on what makes a good teacher. I saw some bad ones. Mm-hmm. I saw some really good ones, and I had a good mentor who guided me along the way. So that would be my biggest recommendation, is find a mentor who can guide you. And, there is no substitute for learning from someone else's experience. Yeah. Someone who's in the space, is reputable, knowledgeable, and has experience.
Yeah, for sure. Good segue to this question. What do you think are good traits or qualities of a good pickleball coach? Because I'm sure you get this all the time, but I coach many people, and I'll tell them something, and then they're like, what? I didn't know that you shouldn't always drop your third shot.
Right.
Or you just get total like, no, I was coached. I went to a camp or whatever, and this is what I was told. So, if someone's looking for a good coach for their game, what are some good things for them to like look for, in your opinion?
What did they look for in a coach?
Yeah.
I think somebody who fits their personality style. I mean, there's different types of learners out there.
Yeah.
And so a cookie cutter approach presented to everyone is not the best method, in my opinion, because people learn differently and people have different personality styles.
Yeah.
So do you want the excitable, loud, exuberant type coach?
Yeah.
Or do you want the more quiet, calm, and cerebral type of coach?
Yeah.
There's different types of coaching styles that are good, that work, but maybe just don't mesh with the student's learning style. So I think if you can identify your own learning style, then maybe you find a coach who you can jive with.
Yeah.
There's different, you can have the same amount of knowledge and experience, but the way it's presented, you might relate to better. So, find what your learning style is, try to find a coach who you think meshes well with your learning style, but also has, a pedigree and experience and knowledge that, are going to help.
Yeah. Oh, that's good advice. So since I know this is on the spot, but since we're both in the coaching industry, what coaches out there would you kind of stand behind or like kind of recommend, or anyone out there that you think is a good coach that you can just shout out?
Man,
and I won't ask the other side.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I can tell you a few guys I got some respect for.
Okay.
Who I think,
because you've actually coached with a lot of
I have
like high level players.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of pro players.
Yeah, I've been around and I've taught alongside a number of people, and I hesitate to give an answer on this one because I don't want to. You
don't want to leave anyone out.
Yeah, exactly. I leave one guy out or one lady out, and she's gonna be like, "Hey, I belong on that list," or he'll say, "I'm right up there too, man. What gives?"
Okay.
So maybe I'll pass on that one. But there are a handful that I really respect. I think do a really good job. I think they've really got a good grasp of the pedagogy and the foundational principles of sport and athletics that make them really good pickleball minds. And I think they also have a good way of presenting information that makes sense to a lot of people. So
cool.
I'll let people draw their own conclusions on who they think maybe the best coach is. But I think we're a little ways away from an extensive list. Yeah. It's going to take a little time to develop.
Yeah, still growing. Why doesn't a pro player or great player, why doesn't that translate to a good coach all the time? Because a lot of people think that way.
Oh, yeah.
And camps, clinics, whatever, all across the country are sold that way. And there are some, like I know, like in my mind, there's some good coaches that are great players. Yeah. But why doesn't that always translate over?
Yeah. I mean, it's like that in any sport. I think you have two common misconceptions that take place. One is, if you're a great player, you must be very knowledgeable because you had to know a lot to get to that point. That's not necessarily true. I can think of a number of examples from a number of different sports where the highest level players, not necessarily good coaching material.
Yeah.
You have to have a teacher's heart. You have to have the knowledge and experience within that realm, other than just being a good athlete who can perform.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's others who believe the flip side is true. Well, but you look at these coaches and they weren't good players, and they might point to someone like Steve Kerr in basketball. He wasn't really a great player. He played with Michael Jordan, and he wasn't really that good. Well,
except he was in the top 0.001%.
yeah, he played in the NBA.
Yeah.
Like, he played at the highest levels. And so, I think that don't let that pendulum swing so far the other way that, well, because they're not good at their sport, or they didn't play at a high level, they must be a good coach.
Yeah.
That is not necessarily true. I think you have to have that sweet spot of a player who was a high-level performer and understands the game with experience, but also has the teacher's heart.
Yeah.
Also has, a pedigree as a teacher. And again, I go back to my dad who, he went to conferences and seminars to rub shoulders with the best in the business. And, that mentorship is so important.
Yeah.
I've had mentors all my life within the sport, but then also outside of the sport that, I've learned so much from, and I've grown and I've improved over the course of time. So, to say that experience playing is irrelevant is a mistake. Yeah. But to say, playing experience alone makes a great coach, that's also a mistake. There is kind of a happy medium there.
No.
And, we can all point to Uncle Joe, the one example. Well, he never really played at a high level and he's a good coach. Well, he's the exception to the rule.
Yeah.
And, we can point to the high level, player who also made a good coach. Well, that's, the playing experience obviously helps.
Yeah, for sure.
But it doesn't necessarily translate into communication skills.
Yeah, there you go.
And relatability and the teacher's heart. And, we could get into more of that, but I think you got the idea.
Yeah, good answer. All right. Funniest coaching story, or maybe funniest or most embarrassing coaching story, if you have any. I know this is on the spot.
Yeah, I'd have to think about that.
Or something, or at least something that was super memorable that happened at one of your coaching events.
Man.
Like, I'm sure you got stories, because I talked to some coaches and there's some funny ones.
Yeah. I just taught a camp. I got done teaching camp yesterday. It's a good question. I mean, the only thing I can think of right off the top of my head is, at the facility we were at, there were gates on only one end of the courts. And so some of the players had to climb over the fence, literally throw their leg up and over and crawl over the fence. And one of the participants made maybe a not so graceful move over the fence.
Yeah.
But
have you had anyone get seriously hurt during coaching?
No,
I haven't. I haven't either, and I am knock on wood. I don't want that to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I'm CPR certified.
Okay.
So if an emergency takes place, I'm prepared for that.
Actually, that's good. I might need to do that.
I've not had anybody wreck a knee or twist an ankle.
Really? Okay.
Minor stuff here and there. But I'm pretty careful in my camps and clinics to tell people that safety first.
Okay.
If you're feeling like you're not up for it, it's okay to rest. And we do occasionally have someone bow out and say, I'm gonna sit out the last couple hours of this one because I'm just feeling it.
Yeah.
But no, as far as any real bad mishaps or injuries, I haven't experienced that. I'd have to put some thought into a really funny story.
Okay.
Sometimes people just say funny stuff.
Yeah.
We get some humorous person in a camp quite often, and it makes for a good atmosphere.
Yeah.
But I can't really think of a specific real funny thing.
I've had this just in my notes just because Something that I've thought about having. Worst pickleball student. You don't have to name a name, but even those experiences, like I have a few. But do you remember anything where someone was super hard to coach, or negative, or has all your experiences been pretty good?
Well, I mean, people are people, right?
Yeah.
So I think you'd have to be the luckiest person on earth to never have a negative experience with a student or a negative person within one of your camps or clinics. So are you asking from like a camp clinic setting
or private? Yeah, just in general.
Oh man.
Because my favorite one is like, not specifically, but like when I'm teaching something and they're like challenging me, you know, and it's just like really general stuff. It's like, oh no, like this is how it goes. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I got to think of a few examples. I did have one lady. I was kind of newer to the sport, and we were doing some straight ahead dinking back and forth.
Yeah.
And, you know, every third, fourth ball, she'd hit it over to the other side into the open court.
Oh, okay.
And,
on purpose or no?
Yeah, on purpose. And I was kind of like, well, you know, let's keep this rally going for a little bit, back and forth. And she'd hit a few, and then she'd hit it over to the other side. And I was kind of confused, like, what are you doing?
Like as a winner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, you know, she did it a few times, and I thought maybe she just didn't understand. But then it was maybe like the fourth time she did it. She gave me a look like, kind of like, haha.
Oh.
And I was like, I mean, we're rallying.
Yeah.
We're not playing points.
And you're rallying down the line.
Yeah, we're not trying to win here.
And then she's pulling it cross court.
Yeah, and I even made mention, like, you know, we're trying to rally. You know, we're not playing points. We're not scoring.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it just kind of, but she kept doing it. And that was difficult. Like,
so, well, what happened? Did you say something? Did you ask her like, hey, why are you hitting it over there?
I very subtly, I try to be subtle. Like, you know, there's really no incentive for hitting it over there, except now we have to grab a new ball and start again.
Yeah.
But the rest of the lesson was just kind of like that.
Oh, that's weird. Okay, I haven't had that.
You know, I didn't reprimand her like, don't do that.
Yeah.
But, you know, once we progressed to some other skills and shots, she kind of just kept wanting to hit winning shots. And, you know, I'm standing here by the ball cart. I'm not chasing it. Like,
dude, that's a good one. I've never ran into that.
It was just weird.
You know what I would have done? You should have challenged her to a singles game after.
I don't know that would have been a good idea. I can't even remember how we wrapped up the lesson, but
oh my God,
you know, I made use of it, and I didn't. I mean, I wasn't gonna get on her case about it, but
yeah,
it's just weird. Like sometimes people just they do their own thing, and she clearly just didn't, you know, want to perform the lesson as it was structured. It was more like she just okay. I wasn't gonna fight her on it.
Yeah, wow.
I did have one other lady who she did. I welcome challenges, actually. You know, if somebody has a question or they disagree about something, I welcome them to express their thoughts.
Oh, me too. Yeah.
And then we can talk about it. Mm-hmm. Let's work it out.
Yeah.
So I don't mind being challenged. Mm-hmm. And actually, I tell most of my students that, you know, if something doesn't set right with you, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Because coaching is a two-way street.
Yeah.
You know, there's good students, there's bad students, just like there's good coaches and bad coaches. But, you know, I had a lady, she was fighting me. And she actually kind of understood intellectually, but she kept doing it the opposite. So what she kept doing is on her, when she was getting a serve return, she would just stay back. She'd return it and stay back.
Okay. Yeah.
But then when their team was receiving the return and they were hitting a third shot, she was racing up to the net.
Yeah.
Just rushing up.
Yeah.
And I tried to, no, you got this reversed.
Yeah.
As a returner, you have permission to move in and follow your shot forward. They have to let the ball bounce.
Yeah.
But if you're the serving team and they return to you, you don't need to just rush right in because you're setting yourself up for potential harm.
Yeah.
And she kept arguing with me about that. And on the return, she'd stay back. I'm like, now remember, you're allowed to move in here. I would encourage you to move up. And she just kept arguing with me and arguing with me.
That's tough.
I finally about lost it. I'm like, we'll call her Betty.
Yeah.
Betty, I've been doing this a long time.
That sounds like a Betty, by the way.
And I like to think that I know what I'm talking about in this instance. I think you just need to trust me a little bit and just try it.
Yeah.
And, again, it was just odd because over and over, repeatedly, she kept arguing against it. And it's just one of those foundational principles that, didn't really make sense to go against the grain on this one.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing too. It's like, personality for sure is a big factor. But if I'm going and paying for something, like coaching, like, even if I don't agree with it, like, I'll just, like, I at least want to get my money's worth.
Sure. It's interesting. That's why I asked you, talking about just an individual student or in a camp clinic setting. In a group of 16 to 24.
Oh, that's big. I've never even done anything.
There's typically one, sometimes two, who are just sour.
Yeah.
They act like they don't want to be there. They're negative, argumentative, and quite honestly, that affects the rest of the group when I don't like this drill. This one's dumb. Why are we doing this?
Oh, no.
This doesn't help me. And it's like, goodness gracious, why are you paying good money to play a fun sport and you're just negative all the time?
Maybe we'll just say it, maybe they're gifted that clinic or something,
Yeah, maybe. But again, you talk about people in society, you're going to have some really fun-loving, energetic, positive people. And for whatever reason, it's usually stuff that's not related to pickleball.
Yeah.
They're just kind of down and negative, and I do my best to try to win them over.
Yeah.
And show them that, look, I still value you as a human being, and I'm glad you're here, despite the bad attitude.
Yeah.
It's just something I don't understand. That why would you come to a clinic like that for pickleball and have a bad attitude? But it is what it is.
Have you ever had this happen? It's happened to me a couple of times. You coach somebody that is like zero athleticism.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what was that like? And where the progress by the end of the lesson is close to none. Like, I don't know if you had that experience. Like someone like super, super never touched anything in their lives.
Yeah, I did have one lady, and it's kind of common thought that anybody can play pickleball. Anybody can pick it up. I did have one lady. She whiffed the ball.
Oh,
like it was a group. And a group of maybe like 8 players.
And we're talking about dinks, slow dinks, right?
Yep. We started just doing some easy dinking because they had never played before, and we wanted to start them a little closer, make it simple. And she whiffed, and then she whiffed again, and she whiffed again.
I have a story that's super similar to this, and honestly, I almost didn't know what to do. Well, so what? Like, what was the result?
Well, what I did is I stepped in, in place of the player who was rallying with her, and I tried to feed the ball directly to her where she cannot miss it, and she whiffed.
Yes.
And I thought, well, okay, we're dealing with a little bit different animal here.
Yeah.
And so I hand tossed it.
Yeah.
I didn't even use my paddle. I just hand tossed it, and she whiffed again.
Man,
and
it's tough.
Most people, they calibrate.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They find a way to make a little adjustment that if it's consistently missing the end of the paddle, you just move it over. And I tried to educate her a little bit on, if you move the paddle, it's missing off the end. So if you just extend it a little further over, make connection, it wasn't happening. And I think it might have been an hour and a half class. It was roughly halfway through.
Oh, it was a clinic.
It was a clinic, yeah.
So that's what I dealt with. That's hard because, when you have groups, you have someone drilling with somebody else.
Right.
So that other person.
So initially, that's how we started.
Yeah, they get the short end of the stick kind of because there's no rallies, right?
Right. And so that's why I stepped in.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it was roughly halfway through the lesson. This lady said, I forgot. I got another appointment. I'm going to head out. And she bowed out.
Dude, you know what's so crazy? That's exactly what happened to the lady I did.
I give her credit for being self-aware enough that it wasn't happening. And she excused herself rather than continue the painful
That's exactly
process.
what happened in my You know what, though? I honestly felt super bad.
I did too.
For her. I tried my best, too. It's like I did everything you're saying, toss feeds, whatever. I guess I should have. One thing I didn't even think about is, like, maybe just starting with this, like padding it up. But I don't think nothing would have worked.
Yeah. There was just a mind-body disconnect there that I don't think I was going to be able to overcome within that hour and a half clinic.
Yeah.
And it is unfortunate because, she was discouraged from, pursuing it. And eventually I think she would be able to pick it up.
Yeah.
But, for that initial, timeout, it was rough.
Yeah. I got to say, that's probably one of my hardest coaching experiences when that happened.
Yeah.
Just hard because I've never came across
makes
that
you feel
before.
a little inadequate as a coach that you can't help someone. But, it takes all kinds.
So for the listeners and viewers out there, a couple last questions here. They're trying to improve. Everyone's trying to improve their game. There is camps, clinics here, leading here, YouTube, a lot of different resources.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think's like for someone who just wants to improve their game, like we all do? What's your suggestion? Obviously, we can take things, but just initially, let's say they don't have a lot of resources, but they just like, what would you suggest to somebody like that?
Yeah, it kind of depends on the situation and what that person's goals are.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't have the means to be able to travel and take a camp or a clinic from a trusted resource, then there's some good stuff online that you can learn. And I think it's true of most any kind of entity out there. If you want to learn how to do something in your house, you need some plumbing work done. I mean, you might go to YouTube first and see if you can fix it yourself. But there are some things you can't fix yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
And, you might need to hire a plumber, for example, or same with mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of stuff on YouTube you can find that might help you fix whatever is going on with your car. But you might get in there and realize, I can't do this on my own.
Yeah.
And then you have to have your car towed to the mechanic shop. So I think you have to be careful, but do your due diligence and do some research on what is a good resource, because there's some good quality YouTube resources, as you know, but there's also some out there that maybe aren't so good and could be misleading and potentially do a little more harm than good.
Yeah.
I would say that's maybe the same with some camps and clinics.
Yeah.
Some really good high quality ones out there. You're going to get good information and get really good value for your dollar.
Yep.
But sometimes the perception of value lies in the participant.
Yeah.
Whatever the cost is, they might think it's a great value, and others might think, nah, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
But I would just say do your research and find who's reputable, who resonates with you, who makes sense, and look for the pedigree, look for the experience, and I think you'll more often than not find what you're looking for if you do your due diligence, do the research.
Cool. Good answer. 3.0 to 3.5. I'm a 3.0 3.5 player. As we know, that's probably the bulk of players. Trying to improve my game. Trying to get the 4.0 plus. 3 top skills I need to work on.
3 top skills need to work on. I think, most coaches are going to say practice XYZ skill set. I think it's more about what you envisioning targets and trajectories. I think everybody ought to read the book Zen Golf by Joseph Parent.
And I'm assuming it's about golf.
It is about golf,
Okay.
but the principles apply to pickleball.
Really?
Yeah, because it's more about, I have a lot to work on myself when I play. It's more about kind of keeping a quiet mind and envisioning what it is you want, and then allowing the body to tap into the unconscious performance level as opposed to remaining in the conscious mind, which actually hinders physical performance.
Yeah.
So of all the skill sets to learn,
Yeah.
I think it's learning to let the body intuitively move based on the right mental cues.
Yeah.
So if you can get the right mental cues and the right visual pictures, the body will do its thing. But that's kind of the trick.
Yeah. But obviously at that level, they have to learn certain things.
Yep.
And I guess that's the hard part. I guess there's maybe a threshold that you cross, but
Sure.
to know what shots you need to hit,
Yep.
what you have to do, then it becomes more natural, I'm assuming, or something.
Yeah,
Is that
so-
kinda what you're explaining.
Right. Obviously, it takes repetitions. It takes practice. There is no substitute for time and repetition on the court.
Yeah.
So obviously, there's some strategy to it, some strategic plays that ought to be worked on, practiced, but then also some technical stuff where you have to learn. I would say, hitting a drop shot is outstanding practice, but not just hitting third shot drops from the baseline.
Yeah.
I think working on mid-court resets is immensely valuable.
Yep.
Because when you're in the mid-court, not no man's land, mid-court, transition area.
It was called no man's land back in the day.
Yeah, and I'm glad we're getting away from that.
Yeah.
Because that's a tennis term,
Yeah.
and it applies in tennis.
Yeah.
But pickleball is a different game on a different size court. There's no man's land
Yeah.
in table tennis or squash or racquetball or handball. So I'm glad we've gotten away from the no man's land mentality, at least somewhat.
Yeah. Now as a challenge, I like to actually get your feedback about this because I'm actually coaching a lot of singles as well now.
Okay.
Is there no man's land in singles?
Somewhat.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Not so much as tennis.
Yeah. Okay.
And you can get caught in the midcourt, and that's a pretty difficult spot to be in
Super
singles.
tough. Yeah.
So you better hit a good approach shot and move forward and cut off those angles, or else you're vulnerable.
Yeah.
But to further answer your question about what skills should a 3.0, 3.5 work on to get to a new level, I think midcourt resets are immensely valuable. And then I other than just skill work, I think it's a lot of footwork.
Yep.
Too many 3.0, 3.5, even 4.0s fail to recover into good court positioning after they've sent the ball over the net.
Yeah.
They kind of wait and watch. And so I would say
On that
some
note,
court positioning and
yeah.
footwork.
Yeah, on that note, it's for me, I mean, I'm always constantly learning, even as a coach, trying to learn even from others, pick some things that I like, some things I hear and I kind of but yeah, footwork and spacing.
Yes.
For me, contact point in front of the ball. I mean, for the majority, if your feet are there and you have good spacing, your quality of that shot goes up. It's usually leaning or reaching too close to your body, too far away.
That's one thing I learned in a tennis conference years ago. The foundational principles for performance: stability, balance, and rhythm. Another way to say rhythm would be timing.
Yeah.
So if you can maintain stability, balance, and you have good timing or rhythm, then your success rate goes way up.
Yeah.
And so those are some of the foundational principles I like to teach
Cool.
to individual students as well as a group, and most people kind of intuitively feel that.
Yeah.
Right. And so again, that's one of those visual cues that are going to help people perform better, rather than focusing on my wrist position like this and my elbow like this, and I got to bend my knees like this, and the conscious brain taking over and trying to think about all those things at once, which is extremely difficult, if not impossible. Let the body intuitively feel what it's like to maintain good stability and balance and rhythm.
Yeah.
And then some of the techniques will smooth themselves out. Not that people can't have feedback as far as technique, and a coach can't help them with that. But as much as possible, allowing the body to intuitively move.
Yeah.
Stability, balance, rhythm, always.
Yeah. All right. Two things that you see, let's say 3-5 to 4-0 players do wrong all the time. Stop doing this, or work on this.
Oh man,
Super short. Two things.
I think it's a little difficult to put everybody in the same boat.
I know, but just things, for the majority that you see a lot.
Yeah, I think kind of what I just mentioned about not recovering into position.
Okay.
If you had to say stop doing this, stop waiting and watching.
Yeah.
Or stop watching and waiting.
Yeah.
They'll hit a shot and they kind of watch and they wait, and then the ball comes back, and then obviously you got to go get the ball.
Yeah.
I call it golden retriever syndrome. See ball, chase ball, see ball, chase ball.
Yeah.
And they fail to recover into position.
Yeah.
In the interim.
Yep.
There's only 3 skills in pickleball: reception, projection, and recovery. Receiving a ball, and then sending a ball back, and then recovering in between. And too often that recovery piece is missed. And so receiving the ball becomes more challenging.
Yeah.
Because you're having to chase it. And then sending the ball becomes more difficult because it's difficult to maintain stability and balance and rhythm when you're chasing a ball.
Yeah.
That recovery in between is so immensely valuable to prepare you for the next time you have to receive the ball.
Yeah.
So I would say stop watching and waiting.
Okay.
And, learn to recover into position and be a little more proactive preparing for the next one.
Yeah. And the second thing?
I would say probably stop focusing so much on winning in rec play. When you're practicing, practice with a purpose.
Yeah.
And that's to improve something rather than beat Joe and Mary.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, even from personal experience, that's super hard to do.
Yep.
As a super competitive person.
Right.
But that's why I drill and get out of the competitive games.
Yeah. I think you need both. If you want to improve, you have to implement both.
Yeah, for sure.
You drill on one particular aspect to improve at that aspect, but then you have to go try and implement it in real play.
Yeah.
And it can be difficult because we want to focus on the end result.
Yeah.
And that's a number. And we want to win.
Yeah.
But as much as possible, I think get out of that frame of mind that we're trying to win and simply practice with the goal of improvement.
Yeah.
Regardless of the score.
Yeah.
You can't always control the outcome anyhow. So nothing wrong with competing. And if you're never going to play a tournament and you don't care to improve, and that is your Wimbledon, well, by all means, go out there and in your league and try to win. That's fine.
Yeah.
But if the goal is improvement, then I think you set the wins and losses aside and think more in the long term versus the short term.
Yeah. No, that's good, man. Good stuff. Well, DJ, I really appreciate you being on here.
I'm honored to be here, man. I appreciate you inviting me.
Yeah. Where, you got camps going on,
Yep.
you got clinics. Where can people find you?
Well, my website is still currently under construction.
Okay.
So it's not complete yet. I don't have my set full schedule for 2023 yet. I wish I did. It's supposed to have been there already.
All right. Oh, how can they contact you or reach you?
Yeah, danieljpickleball.com
Okay.
is my website. They can just contact me at danieljpickleball@gmail.com. If they want more information, I'm happy to get back to them. And it's me.
Yeah.
It's not anyone else in a back office somewhere answering those emails. That would be me.
Okay. Cool.
So the email, danieljpickleball@gmail.com. But you can always go to my website, danieljpickleball.com,
Yeah.
and find some of my schedule there. It's just not a complete schedule,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Well, hopefully soon.
It should be soon.
Yeah.
I'm thinking within the next couple of weeks that should be finalized. And obviously, I'm adding more camps and clinics. So those will be added as we go. But the website should be more complete. And I'll be adding content there.
Yeah.
Some teaching and stuff like that there. But if you want to follow me on Instagram too,
All right.
I'd appreciate that. Daniel J Pickleball.
Okay.
And yeah, man, I appreciate what you do. I mean, you got a lot of content out there,
Yeah.
and I would encourage anybody to follow you if they want good tips and
Thanks, man.
online resource. Then definitely, I would check you out first, and then maybe go to a camper clinic.
Okay.
That would be my recommendation for people.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. I appreciate it. Yeah. So good luck on, you got MLP, general manager, coaching, competing. Good luck on this year. And I'm sure we'll see each other again. Team Selkirk. I forgot to talk about that.
Oh man. Yeah. I tell you what, I'm just loving Selkirk. Team Selkirk. They show me the love. I'm trying to do what I can to promote them and their brand because they are killing it right now.
Yeah.
I love what they're doing. I love the team from top to bottom.
Yeah, me too. And that's why we both joined the team. But anyways, reach out to DJ. We'll have all the things in the description below. DJ again. And until next time.